Welcome to Love and Hustle. We share unfiltered stories of marriage, entrepreneurship, and scaling to seven figures without losing sight of what matters most.
The raw, the real, the sacrifices, and the lessons learned the hard way.
This is Love and Hustle. Okay, so we are back today on Love and Hustle. We have Emma, my social media assistant. We are back for part 2. Today, we are going to be talking all about back to Gen Z and millennials and the differences between the two generations and how to evolve your business, and talking all things from marketing to luxury and the word luxury and what that means for each generation. And then talking a little bit more about where to take this information and how to go from here.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it. So the first thing, okay, when we were chatting in the closing of part 1, you mentioned how you were like, I want this collaboration. Like, I don't want it to be like I'm hiring this person who, and I'm just kind of assuming that this is the thought of like, I'm just going to show up and you're going to do your thing. But like, you also have like a vision of what you want, and you want there to be this collaboration. And you think that there's this kind of back and forth between what this photographer creates and what you're envisioning. So here's the thing that I know that every single person who is listening to this and has been running a business for a long time is that collaboration part takes time. Okay. And so I'm curious, and I'm not even going to like say anything that would suggest your answer outside of the fact that it takes time to have a good collaboration. How do you perceive a business executing on what that collaboration looks like?
I do think it is very heavily dependent on the client. I think it's very heavily dependent on me and like being honest and like very communicative with the person that I'm working with. Like, for example, when I'm helping, I'll do grad shoots at the end of the year, and I'll help my friends sometimes. Like, if you send me a Pinterest board of what you're looking for, if you sit down and tell me like, this is the vibe I want, I can help you. But if you if you don't set expectations for what you want me to give you, I can't help you get what you want. You're not going to have a good outcome because I don't know what you're looking for. So when it comes to collaboration, I feel like there's a thin line between like collaboration and telling someone what to do. I think you have to put faith in the professional. If I'm hiring a photographer, I'm not going to tell a photographer how to take photos, but I am going to tell the photographer what I'm looking for. But you can't be vague. You can't be like, well, kind of this, kind of that. I think you have to be able to like show something tangible. This is what I like looking for. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. There are people that are like, I like post pictures. I don't want running around. I don't want the casual, the candid. I don't want it. I like post pictures. Having those conversations, showing examples, being very like communicative and like, these are the 5 things I want. These are the things I want. And maybe that's because I'm a perfectionist and I work in a similar field. So every time I go to work, I'm like, here are the 10 things I need to get done today and how they need to look. If I'm going into a photo shoot, like I have before when I did my quinceañera or like my graduation shoot for high school, like I knew what I wanted. I could say, I want close-up pictures. I want pictures in this outfit, this outfit, this outfit. The rest, I trust you. Okay. Here you go. And I'm very expressive, so I'll be as much as like, here's the song that I was listening to and thinking of this. What vibe do you get? Like, I'm just very like in it that way. But color scheme, all those things, the more you tell someone, the more they can work with you. But you can't expect someone to know what you want without giving them anything to work with.
It's so interesting because I'm sure that there's photographers hearing you talk about this and think, oh my God, that sounds so annoying. Because there's so many photographers that perceive themselves as like, I'm the artist, you hired me, I'm going to create the art. It's so funny. So many like DM conversations are coming up today. I saw somebody who kind of posted something about a client that was clearly like micromanaging her. And it was funny because I was like, I just had this happen to me a couple weeks ago. I had a client who literally, one of the fun things about doing in-person sales is that you have the opportunity to be critiqued by your client again and again, which I actually think is a benefit because you get to hear what people like. You get to hear what people don't like. And you get to take that information and hopefully not take it personally, but it allows you to become a better photographer because you see things from the eyes of the client, not just the eyes of the artist. But it was so funny. I was going through and the client kept saying, I don't like the way this is cropped. I don't and I was using actual principles like rule of thirds and leading lines. And
Yeah.
I mean, these are foundational things that make photography unique and create visual interest. And she literally just basically critiqued anything that was remotely felt like art to me. Some of my most beautiful images from that session, she just, completely wanted me to change. And then we changed them all. And then we made her album, and she told us she didn't like the album because she didn't like the way they were cropped, and she wanted us to go back to how they were, which is so frustrating because you're sitting here and you're saying, okay, why did you hire me? Yeah. And, and so I do think there's like this like strange thing that is happening with this generation is that like you guys, you're so good at posing yourself.
Yeah.
You are so aware of your body. You are so aware of how you translate into imagery, which makes you really fun clients to work with. I love our senior clients and like families that have, college and high school age kids because they are so aware. But in this also sense, it's that you are so aware that it almost makes you a bit of a challenge of a client. So for the photographers who are listening, because I want to ask the questions that are actually going to push the needle in their business, how do you feel that a photographer should get that information from you? Should it be a questionnaire? Should it be a consultation? Should it be a shared Pinterest board? What does that look like in a very actionable way that works for how you process information?
I think all three of those is really good. And one thing I will say, Gen Z is like very people pleasy. So I think if you are upfront with boundaries, Gen Z is very good at setting boundaries. They will listen to them. So if you're saying like, here is what I'm going to do for you, here is what I need from you, period, they're gonna be like, okay, I know what to expect. I know what I have to do. Done. There's not gonna be the like back and forth or the like, if I sit down and you're like, I'm going to crop these things. If you want anything specific, let me know ahead of time, but I'm going to do it. I'll be like, okay, I'm not going to bother you then. If I don't have specifics, that's all you then. I do think like a questionnaire is big. I personally think consultations are helpful. I do think Gen Z like leans away coming in person for things, but having consultations where you can like express what you do so they can better understand how they can help you is huge. Shared Pinterest boards are always great, personally. I love that. Or just providing any kind of imagery that, like, or asking them for imagery that they can provide you so you can understand what they're saying. I do think, like, Google Forms is helpful for, like, the basics, but, like, consultations I think are really great because you get to, like, actually express without being limited on word count, like,
do you
what
see
you're
that,
trying to say.
Do you see that as a Zoom or on a phone or via text?
I would say text, not so much. Oddly enough, Gen Z's on their phone a lot, but I think like there's a like less value in getting text messages because like nothing's really like special. It's very
You're
easy.
just like being bombarded.
Yeah, it's
all the
very
time.
easy for me to like. There is no downtime. I'm consistently being reached. Having like people having access to you 24/7 is a lot. So I think answering that's weird. Additionally, like email is also a little weird. Like I do think, however, email I stayed to professional things, so that still works. I think for Gen Z because we've created it. We're like, this is my professional space. I have like a signature ending on all my emails, so that works. I think Zoom and phone call is best option where you're not worried about like the limit of like a word count or the limit of like not having like enough space to like say everything you want to say. Zoom calls are great. You can show pictures on Zoom. Like that's really convenient. You can be more like involved, but I think either way, it's like a lot more will get done successfully when actively having a conversation. But that's a huge point that I made before. Like Gen Z really respects a boundary. So if you set it, they'll like match it. And they're like, people make jokes all the time. Gen Z's the kind of person, I get the wrong meal at a restaurant, I'll be like, it's perfect. Thank you so much. You have a great day. I know you're working hard and I'm going to tip you 20%. I know it's fine. Thank you. Don't even worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to cause issues for people.
It's so interesting because I do think like millennials are like, well, if I paid for it, it should be the way that I want it.
Yeah. And I'll be like, I'm so sorry. So I asked for it like medium rare and it's raw. Like, I'm so sorry that it's raw. I'm so sorry I'm asking you to fix the thing I'm paying for. Like, they don't want to inconvenience other people. So I think like one thing with Gen Z is just being really clear and concise. Like, if you have a sheet that's like, these are on the consultation, I want you to know, these are the things I do. Here's how I run my photo shoots. Here are the things I offer. These things go together, point blank. That'll be it. Because they're not going to do the like, but what if you already told me no, then I'm not asking questions. That's it. I don't if I'm going to get a haircut and they ask for a deposit, I'm never like, do I need to pay the deposit? Deposit's paid. Yes, got it. Scheduled it, done.
Yeah.
I'm there 10 minutes early. Don't worry about it. They are very, I think, nervous of upsetting people, which works out, I think.
Interesting. Okay, so on the topic, because we like touched on a lot of things there, like text, email, Zoom, all the things. So when it comes to like the lead process, let's say that you submit an inquiry to a photographer on their website. What would you want to have happen next? And I want to give you some like hypothetical situations. Because I've seen it played out so many ways. And so I'm curious, like, which of these? I don't want you to tell me open-ended because you might not know all the options that would potentially play out. An automated email that they received it, a text message that they received it, a personalized email back. They just pick up the phone and call you immediately after you send that inquiry. Yeah, which is really interesting. I like seeing your reaction. Like what, a video message, whether that be via email or text, a video of the photographer. What to you do you think your generation would respond best to?
I think it would respond best to like that immediate email response. We received it. We'll be responding within this time frame. Now I know in my head, okay, between, let's say it's 48 hours, for the next 48 hours, I can kind of prepare to get an email. If it's past that, then I know to reach out again. Cool. The initial email.
Yeah.
And then one with an actual response. I think on that email, the importance is giving, similar to what we talked about in like part one, like the lack of attention, like attention deficit, like with our generation, as much information as possible in that initial email that's actually meant, like past the, oh, we'll reach out to you soon, past that, getting that email and being like, hey, we have like, these are our offers, these are our price ranges, like here is our information. If you want to set up a consultation, so here's how to do it, so on and so forth. And I know you like can submit your phone number when you like do inquiries. Getting a text like, hey, just so you know, we just sent you an email with all this information if you want to go check it out. So not dumping all the information via text, but letting it be a notification that lets you know like, hey, go check, we sent it to you.
Yeah.
So things like that. I think providing as much information as possible, as clear and concise as possible immediately, and giving you the access to be like, okay, select 1, 2, 3, or 4, schedule the consultation. Boom, done. That's like the thing that I've found most effective, like when scheduling hair appointments, things like that. Send a DM, get a link, fill this out, get reached out. This is what you're looking for? Yes. What date? Here. Boom, done. The most information possible. I think it's bad when it starts dragging. I don't think a cold call is a good idea. I know a lot of people, spam calls are awful. I don't answer calls I don't have saved numbers for at all. As a matter of fact, I have them blocked. Like, I don't even receive the call if I don't have the number saved. So not that I think it's a bad idea, but I do not think, like, your response rate would be high.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to be very responsive to that. And I don't think text is a bad idea. I just do think it should be used as, like, a notification service. Like,
Interesting.
so you know you got this email. Hey, we just reached out to you again if you want to go check. Because it creates that divide of, like, here's where everything's going to be, and I have it all here. And I think when you get closer to it, it can be, hey, let us know if you need anything. Like, over text, that's fine.
Yeah.
But in the setup process, when you're coming to, like, leads and inquiries like that, I think as much information as possible, as clear as possible, is what works best. Again, with that, like, attention. Like, you just want to keep it snippy.
So it's interesting because I have made an observation amongst the team, and this is not just with one individual, but multiple individuals. And I can even say this across other companies I've been a part of, that your generation does not like to talk on the phone.
No, I don't.
That you guys love to be, and it makes sense because, I mean, my generation, there was a time we didn't even have texting. There was a time we barely had, so yeah. So it's like really interesting. So seeing how you got super cringy.
Yeah, I was like, oh, don't cold call me. Oh, no.
Yeah, super cringy was really interesting. And I hope that people hearing a literal Gen Z react is just going to give them so much insight into their business. Okay, so let's say that we like send over an email and we talk a little bit about our pricing and maybe some bullet points of what we do. And the next steps is to book a consultation call. Tell me how that feels. Like, is it like too involved? Is it something where like if you want it bad enough, you'll book it? Do you find that like that process is something that is coming to you like in other, like, for example, like you mentioned, like getting your hair done, like just in like other facets of your life, consultation calls are a part of the process? Or is it just something that at this point is like so foreign?
I think it's a part of the process. I think that ties into generation, like Gen Z's thing with like boundaries. Anytime I do anything, hair, nails, I send inspo, I talk with my, like the person that's doing whatever I need to do, because I almost feel like they want everything to be done so that when the time comes, you're in, you're out, it's over. Like,
I love that.
They don't want
That's called productivity.
Yeah. That's
Profitability.
I think that matches up with the fact that, like, again, like attention deficit, like they really want to get things done, so they value getting things done efficiently. They value efficiency, things being done quickly. First of all, as a Gen Z, in my experience, if someone from Gen Z is going as far as to submit an inquiry, they already want a book. That's it.
That is interesting.
Because
so you're not price shopping?
I'm not price shopping. If I go somewhere, I'm in price shopping, but I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll get.
You're not like going and dumping like the top 10 people on Google, like inquire, and
research, find the one I like, and then apply for that. Like, if I'm going to get my hair done and I want something, I'll know who I want. Same with everything else, though. Like, in general, restaurants, I'm never like, okay, here's 5 options. If I want Italian food, here are the 5 I looked at. I look at the reviews. I decide on pricing. I like the area. Boom, I pick the one I'm going to. Decision made. I think, like, again, it all ties back to being really efficient. I think we're so used to things going so quickly that we do that. If I am going as far as to make an inquiry on a photography website, I already know I want to book there. I might be unsure about pricing and figuring things out. I might be a little bit confused, but chances are that's what I want already. I know I want it, so I'm going to look for it.
Yeah. I think something that's so interesting too is that like millennials will just lean to like Google reviews or just like Google ranking. And you'd be surprised at how many people I have spoken to that clearly have not even looked at my work. They like, I mean, literally, they'll be describing something to me, and I'm like, I've never even photographed what you are asking. Like, there is not even remotely a photo like said request
that exists.
And sometimes I'm just like in my mind, I'm like, I want to be like, did you go on my website? But I don't actually ask that because then I would just sound like a smart aleck. But clearly they did not go on my website, which is great because I do have friends in the industry that, you know, are completely different than me and I can refer people out. But I had an inquiry for somebody who wanted like a mermaid maternity session, and she described it. And it actually, as she described it, I was like, this actually could be really cool. And I'm like, I've never photographed a mermaid. Why is this woman contacting me? But thankfully, I have a good friend who does what she calls them dream sessions. And, you know, she will dream up this
that's fun.
Yeah. And I also think about like, you know, I remember when Beyonce got pregnant and Beyonce's, you know, maternity photos were quite interesting. You know, they were very out of the box, and there's definitely a space for that, but it's really interesting. It is probably everyone's like going, thank God the next generation of people actually do research before they submit an inquiry, because the number of people, you know, the amount of time that gets spent in just responding to people who didn't even look at the price points on your website or your work in general, or even open your Instagram account is honestly quite infuriating at times. And so glad to hear that. I'm trying to think. You said something else that, okay, so I want to ask you, this is what I want to ask you now. So let's say you get a quick, like you get an email and there's a video embedded in it. Mm-hmm. And the video is a personalized message. It's like, hey, Emma, Brittany here. I heard that you're expecting a baby. Congratulations. I would absolutely love to meet with you, hop on a quick call, chat more about what you're envisioning. Mm-hmm. What is your reaction to that?
Oddly enough, in my head, like, if I've worked with you before, I'm opening it. Period. Done. If, like, I've done that because I'm like, okay, I've worked with this, like, I'll open it. Yeah, hello? Like, yes. If I get a DM from a person who I've worked with before in anything, I'm responding. Mm-hmm. I do think that's not, like, a bad thing. I think, like, that feeling of, like, a little bit personal, like, knowing you remembered something makes them, like, would make Gen Z want to work with you more. Because, again, I think they, like, crave, like, community and, like, that kind of perspective. I think that works. I think that's really, like, responsive. The only thing that makes me, like, about it is, like, historically, I check my school email every day because I need to get that. But, like, I don't check my email unless I know I'm, like, something's coming. Like, unless I know, like, I just gave an inquiry. I put my email down. Now I have to go check and see when I'm getting that response back. But I'm not, like, my notifications aren't on Gmail. I go on it, like, I happen to go on it every day because I'm either at work or at school or something. But, like, most people don't do that. Most people don't log in to see their Gmail. I don't know a lot of people that use a private email. They have their school one, and everything's on there, and that's it. So I do think there's, like, that difference. I do think Gen Z is more responsive on social media platforms, like DMs and things like that are far more responsive. Like, sometimes if I don't find the link to an inquiry, I'll DM them first, and then they'll send me a link. But I tend to do that before sending an email or anything like that. Because also sometimes I feel Gen Z tries to not be as professional, and, like, in my eyes, email is extremely professional for me. Like, the way I speak on email is very different of the way I, like, text or would DM. Just, like, the vibe is different. I think there's, like, it's dependent, but, like, if I've worked with a company before, or if I've, like, worked at the studio and I did my maternity shoot and I got a text like, hey, your baby's 6 months coming up, we're so excited for you, whatever, I'd be very responsive to that because I'm like, oh, you remember.
But if it was like like the first photo shoot ever.
If I reached out with an inquiry, I don't think that'd be a problem. I think that would be like, you care, you're paying attention. I want, like, yes, connection, boom. I do think they also value, like, meeting people and it not being like, yes, it's a working relationship. I'm hiring you. I'm your client. But, like, knowing that you care, like, oh, like, I'm connected to this. Like, that does matter to people. I think when I go to a restaurant, I value when I can, like, talk to the server and, like, have a conversation. We value those. It's not like a get in, get out. Like, we want to have an experience. Like, I want to talk to people. I want to, like, have interactions. So I think they value, like, as a generation, we value that a lot because it's few and far between for us.
Yeah. That's so, like, I just love hearing these responses. It's just like, because a lot of these things are things that we've, you know, trialed or have considered. Really interesting to hear how you talked about texts are almost a form of notification. I find that emails oftentimes don't even get opened. If you're listening to this and you're not aware, almost every client management software tracks whether or not you opened the email. So,
you know,
just so you know, if you're being a butthead client who sent an inquiry, maybe even scheduled a consultation call and spoke to someone, and you didn't open a single email thereafter, the person on the other side of it knows. And I say that because, like, you will not believe how many times and I don't say this to be like a little whiny person, but it is so frustrating to sit and have a very personal conversation. Tell me about your baby. Oh my gosh, wow, you guys have done IVF this many times. Wow, congratulations. This is so special. You've been through so much, and talking about how you're feeling and dreaming up this session for you and looking at dates and taking the time to put together a proposal for you, sending it over, sending an email, sending a follow-up email, sending a text message, and you don't even have the decency to open the email. It definitely, like, as a business, it sucks. It's frustrating. Is it part of it? 100%. But it's almost like I want to have, like, this is a public service announcement to just don't be that butthead. Like, just don't. Especially, I feel like, too, it's interesting how you said boundaries, and, like, do you feel that boundaries are something that are, like, so much stronger in this younger generation? You guys have been so much more empowered to set forth. But let's say that you decided not to, and I don't want to necessarily say you. Let's say you decided not to move forward with a booking. Do you feel that your generation ghosts?
Like, I want to say no, but I feel like yes. But I also feel like it depends on the way I'm approached. For example, I was thinking about this as you were speaking. I will never not answer a text if I knew I booked a consultation and you said we'll text you soon and you text me, I'm never not answering that text. I might have 800 notifications from my friends, but I'm never not answering a text about something important.
Yeah.
I do think if they feel, I think it's less of a ghosting, more of a you didn't get to them quick enough for them to remember. I genuinely think it comes from a place of, that was a week and a half ago. I haven't heard from them in a week and a half. I have 1,000 texts above that one. I didn't even remember. It's gone. Yeah. It's not in my head anymore. And then 2 months later, they're like, oh my God, I forgot this happened. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. I mean, it happens with friends. If I make plans on Monday for Friday, they don't text me on Wednesday. I'm not remembering we have plans. I made other plans. I don't know. I have so much going on. So I do think they have, like, a tendency of like accidentally ghosting. I don't think there's intention behind it, but I think that's where it ties in, is doing like, if I get that email back with information on pricing, at the end should be like, respond within this many days to hold a consultation spot.
So to like speak to this more specifically, do you think that your generation, while you are still young, you're in your 20s, but do you think that your generation is comfortable being upfront and declining something?
I think it'll always be a little like, so sorry. But
yeah.
I do think yes.
We talked about that a little bit in the last episode where you were saying how generation tends to be a little bit of a people pleaser, that there's like a lot of respect and understanding of what people put into something that they're creating, and that when there's dissatisfaction, it's like you're like aware of how that impacts the other party. There's an awareness that happens there for you. Whereas I think the millennial generation, and even probably, what is it?
X?
Yeah, Generation X kind of almost has this like, I don't care. This is what I paid for, so you do it the way I want you to.
Yeah, I do think that differs, and it even reminds me of like, if I went to something and I didn't get the outcome I wanted, I think to myself, I didn't tell you enough for what I was looking for. I didn't show you a good enough picture.
So there's a self-accountability that happens.
It becomes one of those things where I'm like, I refuse to like 100% put that on you. Like, and I would never be upset. Unless something really bad happens, I think it takes a lot to have someone from Gen Z make a bad review or say a bad thing or blow up, which, to be said, if someone does blow up on you, you probably did something, because it takes a lot to get people to that point.
Yeah.
And I've even had situations with my peers that like something bad will happen and they'll just let it go. Like, it is what it is. And I think there is a certain level. I don't foresee like, let's say we're talking like, I'm not sure if it was last episode or now when we talked about the client that was like the cropping on this and on that. It would, the way I would approach that, if I asked you to crop something differently, I saw the album and I was like, oh, I liked the way she did it first. I reach out and be like, I was wrong. I'm really sorry. I told you to change things. I know it's a waste of your time and I'm really sorry I'm making you do the double. Do I need to do anything to like compensate? I do want it back the other way it was. Like, that's the way that would be approached. It's completely different than being like, well, actually, you were right the first time. That wouldn't happen. It would be a conversation where I'd be like, well, reap what you sow. I signed up for this. I asked for it to change it, and I'm going to have this album, and I'm going to sit here and stare at it and suffer because I asked for it. And it's just one of those things that I think is like very different.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's some accuracy too in like how they handle situations. I think that accountability aspect, I'm appreciating that as a business. I mean, obviously we want to make our clients happy. And at the end of the day, like, we definitely have a belief that at the end of the day, we're creating art for them. And while as much of it comes from our vision and our process and what it is that we do, they're still our clients.
Yeah.
And their happiness is extremely valuable to us. I think it's reflected in our Google reviews. You can go see them, because we do place priority in that. I think there's this delicate balance that happens in the space of being a creative and an artist, probably more specifically an artist, is that there's this hard and fast thing of like, well, you hired me and this is how I do it, so like it or leave it. And at the end of the day, they're still clients. They're still, yes, they're hiring you as an artist, but it's that collaboration that we were talking about that I think is really needed in this space. And oftentimes, I would say even photographers that are in that Generation X and millennial that are very like hard and fast, not flexible, lacking a little bit of that self-awareness and that self-centered approach to like it or leave it. And in the sense of a client, I paid for this, so give me what I want. So fascinating. Okay, so this has been really helpful to hear a little bit more about the inquiry process. So I know we talked a lot about like digital images and, like you guys wanting to have like access to everything. The other thing that
I was going to mention that something you always talk about that like really resonates with like this conversation, I think, is like not every client in the world is going to be the right client for you. So I think like, yes, you want to like collaborate with Gen Z and like make sure you're giving those options, but also like Gen Z is going to find you.
Okay,
it's
so
very
this is
different.
This is perfect. So this is what's going to lead in. This is leading into the next thing I want to talk about. How do you find photographers? Are they on Instagram, TikTok, Google search? word of mouth, Pinterest. How are you finding the businesses that you work with?
I definitely think social media is a big push, and word of mouth. For example, if I'm going to go get my graduation shoot for college, I'm going to ask my sorority sisters, where'd you get your pictures? Which means we all tend to share same 2-3 photographers.
Yes.
So we value that in the fact that you just posted your graduation photos on Instagram. I loved them. So I'm going to ask you where you got your pictures done. And that's how that circulates. I also think we have really healthy available search engines on like TikTok and Instagram that give us the ability to look for very specific things that we're looking for. So if it's vintage style senior portraits in Tampa, Florida, search. If that's what I'm looking for, hashtags are important on TikTok more specifically.
Yep.
Or just like labeling things if you have a certain like labeling things in the way they are. It's like showing people that like this is exactly what you're looking for, and like stick to the niche, because someone's going to search and look for exactly what you're offering and they're going to find it because that's what you show. Consistency. Like showing that. I will say it's social media. I think they value a niche. Like I know if I go to a photographer and I have a certain vision and like they're posting these things and I'm like beautiful but not the vision I'm thinking of, I might go find someone else who like may have done a photo shoot that I was like, oh, that looks like something I'd want to do, or that looks similar to the aesthetic I'm looking for. And you're going to lean towards that. I'd almost lean towards that over like quality, if I'm being honest. If I'm looking at something that I'm like, I know that you're going to execute what I want and I trust you to do that, versus this picture like may look like more professional, but it's not what I want. They have what I want. So I think that's where it like ties into the importance of like marketing yourself as honest to your business as you can be, marketing exactly what you do, why you do it, the niche that you are, because that's what's going to help you. Like you don't want to fit into everyone's basket. You're not for everyone. Not every photographer is for everyone. You're for the right people, and marketing towards them is what helps.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so super interesting speaking on the social media platforms. So you, like your first day with me when we kind of broke down the brands, where we were showing up in each one based on the niches. Because obviously I started my business in maternity and newborn, but now that there's multiple photographers within the Brittany Elise umbrella, we're now branching off into seniors. We do a ton of extended family sessions. We've never really marketed ourselves as family photographers. However, we have been in business long enough that we now have a very expansive returning client base that is specifically families that are no longer having babies. When it comes to like because you're like, I'm going to go look on social. You did not say Google. You did not say, I have another question, because you said it is more important to me to find the person who I know can create the vision I want, and less important to me.
Like the quality.
The quality.
Yeah.
Correct. The quality, which I think millennials like read Google reviews. It's oftentimes why they'll choose, because they know that if a business is performing a business, like if they're doing their job right and they're doing their job well consistently, the Google reviews will reflect that. So with that said, would you be willing to go to somebody with a 3-star review to have what you want and maybe have a compromised experience, versus going to somebody who has 5-star reviews and tons of great testimonials, right? But maybe is like kind of there, but not 100%.
I do think at that point when I'm looking at things, I also think in business,
it doesn't sound like you would even look at the Google reviews, which is
I probably wouldn't.
But
I think
if it came up,
I think also with situations where you're receiving a product, in those cases, I look at Google reviews for like restaurants. But I think the reason Gen Z doesn't look at Google reviews is because we don't write Google reviews. So I almost don't value what you're saying, because none of my peers would write a Google review. So I look at it and it's like either an older review or people that are like clearly older than me, and I'm like, I don't think we care about the same stuff.
So, okay, so tell me this. How does your generation review businesses?
I think very bluntly, like if you're looking on social, I will look at a comment section and someone will be like,
like comment section.
And also like,
okay,
you can see in that like quality of how much they're posting. If I'm going to look for a certain thing, like restaurants, I look at Google reviews. I think people write on there. I care about those things. People are more consistent with restaurants because people are like, hey, don't go here, they're dirty. But with other things that like on social media, if I'm looking at 2 people in the same niche in the same like place and one of them has way more engagement from actual clients than the other, then that's telling to me. Because we don't create community in like the Google reviews and things like that. Like I get my hair done somewhere, I follow them. I keep in touch. I stay interacting with their media. So you go in the comment sections, I'm like, oh my God, everyone that comes here like loves it. Every client that's been posted is like, I love this. It's been great. You go in the stories and like, third time cutting this girl's hair, she just did this. Things like that are what I'm like, oh, okay. That's like our form of reviews.
Okay.
Seeing the access.
It's almost like the social sharing.
Yes.
The reposting.
The interaction. That and like word of mouth, I think, does a lot of favors for people.
I don't think word of mouth, honestly, will ever go away. And especially in the world of like AI, which is why I think, too, just the whole process of being found as a photographer has just been completely just like flipped upside down, because now we have this whole other beast of like AI and how social is reading, how AI is crawling across these websites and through social and all of that, and feeding that back into people's search criteria. So, okay. But you obviously the social sharing. Now, let's say that it's something that is extremely important to you and it costs a lot of money, and this is a big deal for you. When it comes to that, is it still the same? Is it still like the social, like, do you kind of go down these rabbit holes of like fully investigating a business? Like,
that's kind of where I think like it depends on the gravity of something. Like I think depending on someone's personal importance to something, while I might care to read reviews for a restaurant, my friend might be like, I don't care. But if I'm going to be paying for something, I'm reading every review. I'm going on the website. I'm checking the Instagram, tagged photos. I'm going on everything. I'm looking at like testimonials. I want to see all those things. I'm going to go to the people that posted and tagged the photography studio and see if they've done them multiple times. I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see how that's changed over time.
Brand loyalty is
that's
huge.
So things like that, I think it does change with the price point going up. The more important, the more research is done. And I think that goes across for the generation, but I do think there's like, I'd have more questions. My consultation would be longer. I have more things to ask, which is also why I think like something that I think you do very successfully is showing not just here are some pretty pictures I took, but making sure to mention all the things you offer, because the more I can find out front without looking for it or having to dig for it, or the more I'm like, okay, I know what to expect, and that gives a sense of comfortability almost, like, okay, I know what happens here. I know how this is going to work. So I do think they do value, like the more expensive, the more significant, the value does go up, similar to how I mentioned, like a lot of people in my generation will pay thousands for a wedding photographer, but they'll make the flower bouquets at home because the things that are significant to them, they're willing to invest in.
Yeah, 100%. I think that same sentiment probably falls across both generations. So the other thing that I kind of in my research, but also even in my observation, is that millennials really value consistency. Not like great example would be, the consistency of a product year over year, and like being able to know exactly what you are going to get from that business when you hire them. Do you feel that Gen Z, because obviously there's a layer of like uniqueness that they want, like part of the reason why they're going to buy it from the business is because they can't do it themselves, is because it is so unique and crafted, which is something interesting because as the curator of the Photographer's Framer, I recognize that in the incoming generation and have had conversations with them about how uniqueness is going to, there's some complexities to that need to be considered. Not in the immediate, but knowing how this is evolving. Because I tend to forecast a lot, I think forward a lot in my business, and then translating that even further into like the products and the product development and where that's going to go. And so I think one thing about the millennials is they're like, I might have the same frames, I might have the same dress as my friend, but I'm happy with it because it's a consistent, high quality product. And having something that's super unique or rare isn't that important. Would you say that that's true, or that you guys are just like really wanting something that is so like uniquely created to you?
I think Gen Z values consistency in the experience, not in the outcome. So they value, I want to know that when I reach out to you, I'm going to know the pricing, I'm going to know the experience, I'm going to know how I can talk to you, I'm going to know what you can offer me. But I also want to know that if I want to do my wedding photos this way and something else, that I can still trust you to do both ways.
Yeah.
If I want it to look different, if I'm moving and the entire aesthetic of my house is changing, I want to know that I can trust you to still have the outcome I'm looking for.
So having customizations is important. Something I have found is that obviously being in the product space, I've gotten bored, to be completely transparent. I'm like, I'm itching to introduce a new product. And then I always bring myself back to it overwhelms the client. And then the client feels like they can't make decisions because
Too much on the table.
there's too much on the table. So here's my question there is, do you think want a lot of options, or do you think that having simplified things with maybe minimal customizations inside where it can feel more unique to them and more curated for them, do they get overwhelmed with a ton of options? Do they want to know all the options, or do they like shut down? Do they trust the process?
I don't think the problem is the options. I think having limited options isn't a bad thing. Like, I think it's like the small things in the customizations that like feel special. The font on an album, things like that are the significance of them. Yeah. I also think
The customizations like on the inside.
exactly the fact that like you and I might have the same album, but like you look at mine and you're like, I can tell that's hers. So I think that's what's special, which I think matches up with the collaboration aspect of like, we work together. If I tell you enough of what I want, you're going to be able to execute what I'm looking for. And I might look for a frame. Like, I tend to like gold frames with like a thick mat and a small picture in the middle. It's kind of like a thing I like doing. People have their niche, and it's just a matter of knowing like limited options, but how can you make it you? I think that like reminds me a lot of how like Gen Z is really into buying like older homes and making sure they stay looking old. They don't want to strip it and paint it all one color.
Yeah.
They want it to have that like identity. They crave identity. So I think the limited options isn't a problem. I don't think they're looking for too many options. I think they're looking for creative ways to make things their own. So the little things, the size of a mat, way you're posing a picture, I think that's like, do think too many options can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I think if you show limited options and express the ability to characterize them to like each person individually, that works. Like, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. That's like so reaffirming, because every time I ever consider, offering something new, I'm like, oh, geez. I'm like, this is just, it's going to be so hard to even present these, because a lot of times people just get overwhelmed in the process of narrowing down their favorites to even make an album. So getting them all the way to selecting the cover and the the images themselves and the customizations on the front, it can almost feel like you push yourself further and further away from a finish line.
But I will say, when I worked in framing and I was doing those custom frames, Gen Z, when they came in and looked for a custom frame, they were willing to spend, if they already knew they're spending the money, they were willing to spend the money on a mat, an extra frame. They were willing to go all out if they were already there. Versus older generations were like, I just like black frames. Just put the black frame and that's it. That's all I want.
Yeah.
But Gen Z was like, I'm already here. I'm getting the custom frame. If that means I pay $100 more to get the exact thing that I want, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah. No, and I kind of have that philosophy myself personally. I'm like, do it right or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Like, if you got this far. And I will say, I have clients, a lot of times I'll be designing something and we'll get all the way to the finish line. They absolutely love it. I've created this vision. And then we get to the part where they have to pay for it. And they're like, oh. And it's like, I always tell families, I'm like, if you love this design, if you love this concept, you don't have to execute the entire thing today. Like, don't take this design that covers, for example, let's say like it has a footprint that's 5 feet wide. Don't take it and size it down to 3 feet wide so that you can suddenly afford it, right? Do part of it. Yeah. Pace yourself. Don't compromise a design to get it all for that price. And I will say, there are families, like, I see it all the time, where someone's like, oh, that's like more than I wanted to spend. But like, honestly, I just want it that way. So yeah. And they go for it, And so I'm always willing to meet my clients. In fact, I had a client write a review about this. Like, she specifically talked about how I helped her to stay within her budget and to, there's just different options that can definitely be had. But I love hearing that you guys are just like, do it right. Just have it the way you want it. So, okay. Yes. And Emma has some experience custom framing, which is really cool because you're able to, just kind of see a little bit of where our clients can have that unique aspect to their products. So, okay. We talked so much about just like social and lead inquiry and like all of the things. Let's just kind of like in closing, talk a little bit more about marketing. I think I would love to, and some people may already know this, but I'm going to like ask this because I totally asked one of the girls before you were on the team. When people are like, I just like the vibe. For all of us who are like, what is a vibe? Like, what does that mean? When you hear someone say, well, I'm choosing them because of the vibe, that doesn't make sense. Like in my mind, I'm like, I'm choosing them because I like their work. They clearly have a great reputation. My friends have used them. They deliver services that I need and a finished product that I want. Check. Check.
I almost feel like it's completely out of your control in a way. Like, I think the way you present yourself needs to be very honest to you because someone else is going to see that and find comfort in the way you express yourself because they'll look at you as you. They'll see the platform, they'll see your page, and they'll be like, this is something I connect with. The pictures are things I like looking at. The vibe is something I like. The way it looks, the music they pick for songs, the way they caption their videos, the way you post on your story is something I connect with. So I like the vibe. That's where like the vibe comes from, where it's just, I think it's just another word for like, oh, I get this. I get what they're doing.
Yeah.
I connect with them.
Like the energy.
The energy around
in
something.
and around the brand and the company.
Exactly. So I think that's what it is, where it's like when you're comparing two places, which one do you feel like connects to you more? Which is why I've always said like your main goal when you're doing marketing should be to market yourself as honestly as possible, not to market towards a certain group of people. You have to be aware of like age groups and what platforms to do what, but it's how and what to do on where in a way that's very honest to you, because that's what's going to get the people. You always talk about how you want the clients that are going to work best with you. You want the right clients that are going to be able to like get what they want and like have that experience that's what they really need. And like, that's how you do it. You market yourself as very honest and true to who you are, because then people that connect with that are going to come your way, because that's what you want. You want people that get what they know what they want, and what they want is you.
Yeah.
So I think that's what a vibe is. It's just like the energy of a company.
Yeah. And I think too, we've just been like up, I think in general, especially the generation Y and millennials, especially people who are on the upper end of millennials, like they're like, why do you need to know my vibe in order to like my photos? Like, why do you, and that's just such a hard thing. And there are so many people who are uncomfortable sharing and having that authenticity and like being vulnerable in a way that allows people to create that connection, to have that energy, that vibe. And so I think too, something, and I'm curious if you agree that like people have to make a point to bring forward who they are within their business, what their business stands for, what their business believes in. You actually you wrote a post for me, and it was a very bold post. And I knew that the post was going to have people not like it. But it was okay for me because I knew that the people who were my client would agree. And so I'm curious for you, like, how can businesses convey their vibe? Where does that come from? Like, do you guys like read captions? Is it like through, where do you find like someone can, let's say somebody just gets uncomfortable, like speaking their mind, or like they don't like showing their face on camera. That's very common, especially for artists, like maybe very introverted. How do you feel like that business can share their vibe when they're not really willing to have themselves be so forward in the business?
Yeah, it all ties into something you've said before. We were like talking last week, actually, like you need to have a strong sense of why. Like you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. And there's also ways to very creatively express yourself without being heavily on camera. Some people are only comfortable talking, but they don't want their face to be seen. Some people are comfortable with their face being seen, but not talking, and finding creative avenues to do that. Voiceovers, if you want your voice and not your face, things like that you can like do in a creative way. And I think it's a matter of like if you know your why and what's important to your business, you can translate that on your marketing and the way you produce things. If you don't want to talk about yourself and what you want and what you do, you could talk about what you guys create. What do I create? Here are examples of what I like doing. Here's me and like there's ways to go around it that are honest to you. That ties in again, like people want to know your vibe. If like some people want to work with a company that the owner is very front facing and they're like involved and they feel like they know them. And some people are like, I don't want to do that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'm good. Some people like going to a local coffee shop where they know the barista and they're there every day. And some people like going to a drive-thru that they don't remember them. Like, everyone has a different experience, which is why it's important that you don't like being on camera. Don't be on camera. That's honest to you.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you're filling in that gap with other things that are significant. You might have to overcompensate with like a lot of written posts. People like that might do better with like newsletters, like blogs, things where they can speak their mind without like being their face, or just leaning in really heavily on like the artwork they're creating and let it be that.
Yeah. Yeah. I took this, it was really interesting. I had a girl pop up in my Instagram and I hopped over to her feed and she had this really cool quiz that you can take. And she asks you like 20 to 30 questions specifically about like you. Like one of the questions is like, when you walk in a room and you know no one, what do you do? How do you respond? And the quiz was so cool because at the end of it, she tells you one of your like, she's helping you to identify what attracts people to you. And you have those brands that are really quiet. You have those brands that are really bold. And when you understand yourself, your why, like what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, and how you show up, it's much easier to convey that vibe, exactly. Going back to the vibe, in your messaging and in your marketing.
No one's going to know who you are if you don't. You gotta figure that out first.
And I do think even like just like the self-awareness, there's so much more focus on self-care, self-awareness, listening to your body, listening to your heart and what fills your cup. And there's so much more value that's being placed on this younger generation of like doing something that makes you happy versus doing what society has told you that you should do. Yes. So, which is again, I talked about this. Zach and I are going to have to do a post talking all about how we got into healthcare, and that's going to be such a great post. But I have like loved this conversation. Can you think of anything that we didn't touch on that we should like before we like wrap? So here's my only other question for you is, do you think that photographers need to evolve their style, change the art that they're creating or that they love?
I don't think so. I think like you will always find the right person. Like the right person will find you, better said, I guess. I think there's a certain way that you can like keep up with the times while also staying consistent with like the art you like creating. Like someone's always going to want what you have to offer, but similar like with that, like styling, how we do full service. Making sure that you're keeping things updated, that it's not super outdated, that things can be timeless, that things can be consistent, that like you're keeping up with like trends. If we're doing outdoor shoots, like our beach is really big this year, like making sure you're doing that, like that you're kind of keeping up to date with like the things outside of your editing style and your photography style. Like those things shouldn't stay because also clients are coming to you because that's what they saw and that's what they like. Yeah. So I think it's just important to keep up with the times in other ways, what you have to offer in terms of styling and like location and like see what's trending. But outside of that, like stick to your niche. People want you for you.
Do you think that Gen Z values seeing the evolution
of someone's changing over time? I think, yeah. Because I think it shows like, okay, like you're capable. Similar of like
I actually really appreciate it. I went on to a photographer's feed the other day. She had archived almost all of her work. She just like literally practically made like a 180 in her style. And I was like, but you've been in business for like 8 years. Like that work mattered. That work mattered. And showing like your evolution of who you are and like finding that, I think people can appreciate.
Yeah, they want authenticity. I think a sprinkle of being like look at what I did in 2016 and look at what I do now.
Yeah.
Makes what you do now 10 times more valuable because it's comparable to what you did then.
Yeah, and it shows the growth.
It shows the growth because like I can look at a beautiful picture now and be like, okay, you're a good photographer.
And what's something that's so interesting that I think I notice too, especially from being a coach, is I can see when people are not evolving. And how that lack of evolution and that one, I think, desire to grow. Because I think some people just don't want to grow. They just kind of want to like keep creating. And then two, like the lack of interest in expanding to the next audience and the next customer. Like, because I think about it from a business perspective, like you have to be willing to embrace newness. It doesn't have to be radical. It doesn't have to happen overnight. Those baby steps are so important. Okay, last question. Frames or albums?
Albums.
Tell us why.
I think I like being able to hold something. And I almost, oddly enough, memories feel a little bit intimate to me. They feel like something that I'm like, oh, these are mine. I'm not so showy with those things. I think we tend to, as a generation, like frame things that we want to show others. So I have artwork framed. I have like prints I really appreciate framed. But like I have albums from like high school and like I'm making one for college that I'll have once I graduate. Those things feel really intimate. So it feels like one of those things you open it and it's like a memory that you get to keep. So I think for me personally, and I know my friends and I, we all like have a thing about like making albums and like journaling and scrapbooks. Like that's something we really appreciate. I think those are preferred just because it almost feels like that one is so much more special. Like when you get to like, I think we also all read. So maybe that's the people I know. This like holding something and being able to like see it and feel it, I think says a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, before we wrap up, I want to add one last thought. So let's talk a little bit, and this maybe isn't so much for you as much as it's for the audience, but as we start to like hear Emma talk and we're hearing Emma share all these things that we need to be considering with our business, I obviously, being that I, as I mentioned, do maternity newborn, that has evolved into now having a, very large client base for family photography. But now I've been in business long enough that some of those clients are now going into high school. And so something that has been so interesting is, one, do we market to the moms or do we market to the high schoolers, which has been interesting. But, and you have been so insightful on where we put what content and how it speaks to each person and which channel, which we agreed that seniors are on TikTok.
Yeah.
The moms are on Instagram. Shortcutted that answer for everyone there.
Yeah.
But something that has been really interesting to me is one of my best friends texted me when we were going through all of this. And I was posting on my secret stories, which, by the way, if you're a photographer, DM me secret stories. You can be a part of exclusive content that's specifically for photographers. I was posting all this stuff about Gen Z and, how you guys are just kind of a little bit of a conundrum to us right now. She goes, okay, she texted me. She's like, get to the point in your secret stories. What's the answer? And I was like, well, I don't think you really have to choose.
I don't think so either.
I said, I think there's two different paths. You can stay in your niche of being a maternity and newborn photographer. And in that niche, you will have to evolve because millennials are going to stop having babies and Gen Zs are going to start having babies, which forces you to evolve. Or you can do the opposite. So instead of evolving your marketing and your like inquiry process, you can just stay with the client, stay with the generation and just grow. And so for me, a lot of what I have, one, now I have a team. So I love babies and babies will forever be my heart and I will continue to photograph babies. But I've wanted to stay with my clients and I look at it as, why alienate the loyal clients that have put so much trust in me for the last decade? Why not continue to bring them through the brand and onward? So now we have a staff photographer who's been with me for a while, and she's such a great representation of the brand and what we stand for and can shoot just like me and has become an extension of me. But I think that you don't have to embrace like this radical change of the generation. I think that you can also just choose to evolve your work.
I agree. And I think you can stay consistent and choose to evolve your work. And I think like it's a baby step. Like you start with clients that are doing maternity photos and then they have kids. And then the kids get to a point where these kids are in high school and they're getting their senior pictures done. And in 4 years, they're going to graduate college and they're going to want their college pictures done. And then one day they're going to get married and they're going to get pregnant and they're going to want to have kids. Or maybe not. But either way, if they do, they were a part of these family things that like it goes hand in hand. Like staying consistent with clients creates loyal clients that come back later. And like you don't have to change the way you're marketing yourself, you just have to expand. I think like keep doing what you're doing and add a little this and add a little that to keep the new people coming, but making sure you're still paying attention to those people that have like stuck by you the entire time.
And I think to myself, like the amount of returning clients that we have is a massive percentage of our bookings year over year, and has been, always has been. I think that speaks volumes about the experience we deliver for clients, the consistency. And I also know a lot of our clients want to stay with us because they want to do the same for each child. But I think that almost it feels like, and I have clients who say that, they're like, well, now what? I'm done having kids. Will you still do my photos? And there's like, the way we see it now is there's no expiration date. Like our business never expires. We'll still continue to document your family and you can grow with the business. And so if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to like change everything, the easy answer is keep the clients you have, keep the marketing. Obviously you'll have to change things here and there, but keep, evolving in small ways and grow with the generation as they move into the next niche of, from babies to families to seniors. And I see it this way, is that probably in another 10 years, I'm probably going to be retiring. I hope I'm retiring. I hope I like joke with some clients, their daughters are now in middle school and they go, you better come out of retirement to do our high school photos. And I said, oh man, who knows? I don't think that day is that soon. Anyways, all that to say, don't feel like this conversation now is forcing you to have to go out and like just change everything. There's so many ways to take this information and evolve your business, whether it be from marketing or your actual work itself. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this.
It's been fun to talk. Thank you guys.
All right. Bye. If you're a photographer with a service-driven heart looking to consistently deliver printed artwork to your clients, my group coaching mastermind, Leveraging to Luxury, is opening very soon. Whether you're just starting out with product sales or you're a seasoned expert in the sales room, whether you're in a small town or a big city or international, this is the proven strategy that has scaled hundreds of photographers to multi-six figures with products and services and not their time. This is the exact model that has now scaled my own business to 7 figures with a team. In this 10-week intense mastermind, you'll learn everything from how to run your numbers more strategically as a business, to mindset, to the value-based pricing model that is scalable and truly designed for the benefit of the client. I'll teach you everything from consultation calls to the sales room process to how to guide your client in a very intentional way that only generates the best result for them, but also for you. If you can imagine, it's like riding shotgun in my own business while I am getting in the trench of your business. I take just a handful of students one time a year. So if you're serious about making changes in your business and 2026 is the year for you, applications open very soon. Join the waitlist. The link is in the show notes.